Most people treat ambition and inner peace like enemies, but Buddhism and Taoism both say that's a false choice. The two traditions have been wrestling with that tension for thousands of years, and they landed on completely different answers. The difference shows up in how you handle a promotion you didn't get, a project that's falling apart, or the quiet question running underneath about whether your paycheck defines you. These are two operating systems for the same problem you're facing right now, not abstract philosophies from another time. By the end, you'll know exactly which lens fits the moment you're in. So let's start with what each tradition is actually trying to do. Buddhism is a direct response to suffering. The Buddha looked at human life and saw that pain, loss, and the feeling that nothing is ever enough are built into the experience of wanting things. So the whole system is designed to end that cycle. The goal is enlightenment, a state of awareness that sits outside the push and pull of desire. It is a shift in the mind, not a religious reward. You don't get a better afterlife, and you get freedom from the part of your mind that makes every achievement feel temporary. Taoism starts somewhere else entirely. Laozi looked at the world and saw a natural pattern already running through everything. Rivers flow downhill, trees grow toward light, seasons turn without being pushed. He called this pattern the Tao, and he argued that human suffering comes from fighting it. The goal isn't to rise above wanting things, it's to live in harmony with the way things already are. Success, in the Taoist view, is about learning to move with conditions instead of against them. You don't fight what is already happening. You learn to use it. These two goals show up in your career in ways you might already recognize. The Buddhist signal is the promotion you finally get, and the relief lasts about 3 days before the next target appears. You keep thinking the next milestone will quiet the anxiety for good, but the anxiety just finds a new home every single time. That is the cycle the Buddha named. The Taoist signal is different. It is the job that looks perfect on paper but feels wrong in your gut. You are fighting the natural shape of the work every single day you show up, and no amount of money ever truly fixes that feeling. But there is a trap in each path. The Buddhist trap is treating success as the thing that will finally end your suffering, but it won't. The Taoist trap is using going with the flow as an excuse to avoid hard decisions that you know you need to make. Sometimes the situation is moving fast toward a real danger, and refusing to step away isn't wisdom at all, because it is just avoidance, dressed up as quiet philosophy. But before we talk about how to act, we need to talk about who is acting. Buddhism and Taoism do not agree on who you are. Buddhism teaches non-self or anatta. The idea is that the self is not a fixed thing. Your mind stitches it together from memories, roles, and labels. Your job title, your salary, and your resume are all parts of that story. The goal is not to improve the character, but to see through the character entirely. When you get laid off and feel like nothing, that is the illusion cracking open. You were never your role, because you were the awareness watching yourself play it. The promotion does not make you more real, and the layoff does not make you less. In plain terms, Buddhism says you can succeed brilliantly and still be miserable if you believe you are your success. Taoism sees it differently. In the Taoist view, you are not a blank slate. You have an inner nature, a true self that wants to move in a certain direction. The goal is not to dissolve the self, but to uncover it and let it align with the Tao. When a job feels wrong, no matter how much money it pays, you are violating your own nature. The work should fit you the way a key fits its lock. You do not get there by forcing yourself to change, but by finding the place where your nature and the world's needs meet. In plain terms, Taoism says the pain comes from being in the wrong place, not from being bad at what you do. If you are forcing yourself into a shape that is not yours, the money is just payment for the damage. And here is where it gets really practical, because these two views of self produce two completely different ways of working. So let's look at what this actually means in practice. Buddhism gives you a framework called the Eightfold Path, and one of those steps is right livelihood. The Buddha defined it simply. He said to earn a living without causing harm, and to avoid trade in weapons, living beings, meat, intoxicants, or poison. In modern terms, this means any work that aligns with your values and causes no harm. It is the meeting where you tell the truth when lying would be easier. It is the boundary you hold even when holding it costs you something. Right livelihood is not about the industry, but about the integrity you bring to whatever industry you are in. It is daily and not grand, and it is the choice you make when no one is watching. Taoism does not give you a list of rules. It gives you a way of moving called Wu Wei, which means effortless action. This does not mean doing nothing. It means acting the way water shapes rock, not by force, but by persistence and flow. In your career, Wu Wei is the project that opens because you waited for the right conditions. It is also the project that dies because you forced it before the timing was right. It is recognizing when to push and when to step back. Wu Wei is not laziness, and it is the wisdom to know when your effort is working with the pattern instead of against it. Plenty of professionals burn out not because they work too hard, but because they work too hard at the wrong thing in the wrong season with the wrong people. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is wait for the door to open instead of breaking the window. Here is the distinction that matters. Buddhism gives you ethical rules you can follow inside almost any system. Taoism changes how you relate to the system itself. Two people face a toxic workplace. The Buddhist response is to hold ethics, practice non-attachment to outcomes, and do no harm while you are there. The Taoist response is to read the current. If the situation is moving toward collapse, you do not need to prove you can resist it. You need to find your way out. Neither response is passive, because both are strategic and they use different tools. The Buddhist asks if they can be ethical here, and the Taoist asks if this situation is worth staying in at all. But there is one question we have not answered yet. Both traditions talk about letting go, but they do not mean the same thing by it. And what that means for wanting more is what most people miss. Buddhism teaches that desire, or tanha, is the root of suffering, and what hurts is not the wanting, but the clinging. What turns wanting into pain is the need for the outcome to define your worth. Non-attachment does not mean you stop caring about your work or your income. It means you stop letting the result decide how you feel about yourself. That is a small shift with enormous consequences. You can want the promotion and work for it, but if your self-respect lives and dies with whether you get it, the wanting has become suffering. Taoism does not condemn desire itself, but warns against forcing or striving against natural flow. Ambition that violates timing and conditions is the problem, not the ambition. You can want the promotion, but if you are manipulating, grinding, and burning bridges to get it, you are pushing against conditions that do not want you there. The Taoist question is not whether you want it, but whether your wanting is aligned with the natural conditions around you. Here is where the two traditions overlap, because both agree on letting go of control, but they let go for different reasons. Buddhism lets go because attachment causes pain. Taoism lets go because forcing violates the natural pattern. In a workplace, this looks like the bonus you did not get. The Buddhist reads the disappointment, notices the clinging, and practices non-attachment. The Taoist reads the conditions, sees the timing was not right, and redirects effort where the flow is open. Neither tradition tells you to stop wanting, and both tell you to stop letting the wanting run you. Wealth works the same way in both systems, and neither tradition condemns money. Buddhism warns that attachment to wealth causes suffering. Taoism warns that forcing wealth acquisition violates natural harmony. Both allow wealth as a byproduct of right living, not the goal. You can build wealth and want more, but if the wanting is making you suffer, that is a Buddhist signal. If the striving is forcing you against your own nature, that is a Taoist signal. You do not have to pick one tradition, because you can borrow from both. So that's the difference. Not better or worse, just two ways of holding the same question. If this landed, share it with someone who's navigating the same path, and subscribe, because we go deeper every week.